This ute is a big deal for Toyota Australia. It's the brand's first ever local re-engineering and right-hand drive conversion. It also happens to be the most powerful, the torquiest, and have the largest touchscreen of any Toyota Australia product sold. The Toyota Tundra arrives in the burgeoning big ute segment, with names like the Ram 1500 that has established itself here in Australia and offers the broadest range of variants. There's also the Chevrolet Silverado that's gathering steam, and Ford's F-150 that is the only of these big four utes to be converted outside of Walkinshaw's facilities. We're here to test out the Tundra first and foremost to figure out if Toyota and Walkinshaw have done a bang-up job on converting this thing from left to right-hand drive. But there's another part to that question as well, and that is whether the Big T's entrance into this market segment means big US pickups are set to pick up even more in Australia. So let's find out. There's only one Tundra trim in Australia, the Limited Hybrid, costing $155,900 before on-road costs. Not only does that make it the most expensive Toyota you can buy, but it's also in the upper echelon against rivals that are actually better equipped. That's because in the US there's a Platinum grade that gets a few more features. That said, the Limited's grade isn't too bad. It gets 20-inch alloy wheels, auto LED headlights, keyless entry, synthetic leather upholstery, power adjust seats with heating and ventilation, a 12-speaker JBL sound system, wireless charging pad, and a 360-degree camera. As always, make sure to head to carsguide.com.au for the full specification details. What hurts though is the premium we're paying for these big trucks here in Australia. The Tundra in Limited Hybrid guise you see here retails for the equivalent of 90,000 Australian dollars in its home market. So we're paying a $65,000 markup. You can let me know in the comments section if that bothers you. If you can't tell already, the Tundra was styled by Toyota's American-based CalT design team. And like all of the other vehicles in this segment, it has a big, blocky vibe to the design of the thing. And the presence is immense on the road. Of course, that's helped somewhat by the fact that it is huge. To give you some context, as an Australian viewer, it is almost a metre longer than a Toyota Land Cruiser 300 series with 850mm more between the front and the rear wheels. That means you could fit a whole Suzuki Ignis between the front and the back axles. So this thing is seriously huge. The Tundra isn't all slab sides and blocks though. There are some nice creases to the bodywork, and the LED headlights add a bit of drama. You can let me know what you think of it in the comment section. This is where the Tundra should have a big advantage over a regular dual cab ute like a Toyota Hilux. Starts out well. We've got an electrically opening tailgate that goes down so smoothly, so easily. It's very nicely damped and it's quite light to throw up as well. Inside we've got a fitted bed liner, which is nice, feels high quality. Everything back there is sturdy. You've got plenty of tie down points and a nice racking system, so you can set up bike racks or something if you want in the back. But the size, it's pretty good, but it's not that much bigger than a Hilux. So it's 12 centimeters longer and only about a centimeter wider at the narrowest point between the wheel arches. So it's not game changing. Plus, the payload, although the best in the segment against the Ram, Silverado, and the F-150, it's still 200 kilos short of a Hilux at 758 kilos. So it's not all upsides, but the big one you really want to know about, of course, is this thing. Because the Tundra can tow up to 4,500 kilos. It's got integrated trailer brake systems, autonomous backup trailer assist. It is really well set up for that, and that's exactly what this Limited wants you to do with it. So sure, the tray is not that much longer than a regular sized dual cab, but that's because the space all comes in the cabin cell of the Tundra. It is huge back here. I'm 188 centimeters tall. Look how much knee room I have behind my driving position. Got plenty of toe room and decent headroom. The same cannot be said for even the best in class of the one-ton dual cab range, like the Ford Ranger. The width back here is seriously impressive too. You could easily seat 3 across, with the caveat that the center seat isn't particularly comfortable because it also doubles as a fold-down armrest. But shoulder width will be absolutely no problem at all. Fitting baby seats is a little bit more annoying, but it's not too hard to fold the seats forward. You've got top tether points for all 3 seating positions and ISOFIX anchors on the outboard 2 seats. For practicality, we have a total of 14 cup holders in the Toyota Tundra, which is a lot. You can keep very well hydrated in here. The two that you'll use the most are up here on the center console, where you also find some vents for the AC system, nice rubberized storage tray, 2 USB charging ports as well. You've got a couple more in the door cards, and yeah, the view out, the vision, because you've got the stadium seating arrangement, is really, really good. So I do completely understand the use of the Tundra as a family fit-for-purpose dual cab ute. And then we come to the front seat of the Tundra, the business zone, if you will, and it's pretty well laid out. It's very classic Toyota. All the materials feel just like your sort of Land Cruiser 300 series or Prado in their level of quality and level of fit and finish generally. There are a couple of rattles we've noticed out on the road, mainly when you've got the 12-speaker JBL sound system bumping a little bit of bass. It's in the A-pillar, and also the mirror glass rattles around a little bit, but mostly the sense of solidity and high quality in here remains from Toyota products we see in Australia. There are a couple of niggles about the right-hand drive conversion I'll point out now, those being not swapping the key buttons here over to the driver's side, and also something slightly strange in the HVAC controls, which are thankfully physical. That being the passenger side is still the sync boss, if you will. Means if you lower the temp on the driver's side and hit sync, it'll go back up to the passenger side temperature, which is just slightly weird and annoying. Plus the Apple CarPlay isn't the right way around. Speaking of, it runs through a 14-inch touchscreen, which is massive, and it runs Toyota's in-house multimedia system, which looks a little bit featureless. So yeah, luckily you've got that wireless phone mirroring option, which works really well in this car. No dropouts at all to speak of. 12.3-inch digital dashboard gives you all the information, including a tab for how much iForce and how much max you're using while out on the road driving, which I think is a nice feature. And then material quality, I'll talk a little bit more about that. You do have a scratchy top of the dashboard there, but everywhere else you touch is nice and soft, including this armrest, which I thought, I was a little bit circumspect about because there's only little bits of soft padding on the outer arms. But because it's so wide, that is the perfect place to rest your arm. You've also got a really comfy armrest here and a nice flat spot for resting your arm up on the door when you're towing your big caravan. Finally, we come to the practicalities in here. You've got a wireless charger, which is nicely oriented so your passenger can see any notifications you might get. And the tray down here is rubberized, so stuff doesn't roll around. As I mentioned in the back, there's plenty of cup holders everywhere, and you get lots of storage in the center here. 2 little plastic trays. You can slide this one back, pop that up, really deep center cubby in there, again rubberized to stop things rattling around, and 3 of those USB ports in there. Seat comfort is also fantastic in the Tundra with these big, wide, 8-way power adjustable seats with lumbar support as well. Now, it is worth mentioning that they're heated and ventilated, but then again, they need to be because they're synthetic leather, which does get quite hot here in Australia. Under the Tundra's bonnet is a Toyota hybrid system, but not as you know it, because it's really completely different from what you'd find in a Toyota RAV4 or even a Kluger hybrid, which are series parallel systems, Toyota's THS, whereas this is a strictly parallel hybrid setup. That means there's an electric motor between the twin-turbo V6 engine and the 10-speed automatic gearbox. It's called the iForce Max system, and it works very differently in practice and also allows true four-wheel drive systems to work with a hybrid application. Also, it's built for power and torque, because this thing has huge amounts of peak outputs, 326 kilowatts, 790 newton meters. And the step-on performance is simply unbelievable. The way the electric motor spools up and gives you instant punch before the engine kicks down and gets on with it is really, really impressive stuff. It's also easily the most powerful and torquiest of its competitor set, and you'd expect the 0 to 100k an hour sprint to take around as fast as your average hot hatch, so say 6 seconds, give or take. Remember that bit about it not being a RAV4? Well, the Tundra's fuel consumption is pretty high. You'll be guzzling about 15 litres per 100k's around town. That said, our typical economy run saw the Tundra drink 10.8 litres per 100k's at the Bowser, which is actually very impressive when you consider it against V8 powered and non-hybridized rivals. It also has plenty of punch, which kind of offsets it. And the 122 litre fuel tank means that 95 RON can get you up to around 1100 Ks between fills, providing you're driving unloaded, which is pretty good for a petrol 2.8 tonne ute. Before you even turn a wheel, it's very clear that Toyota has set this Tundra Limited grade up as a vehicle aimed at towing and long distance country driving, far more so than an off-roader. You can see it from the outside. The square, low-jawed bumper at the front and the fairly long rear overhang, plus that 216mm of ground clearance, means it's not going to be competing with a Hilux Rogue for outright off-road potential. Plus the width is probably not going to be that friendly to Australian trails. What this car's all about is towing and long distance comfort, and it covers those two aspects off easily. It is such a confident car on a bumpy country road. The way the double wishbone front and 4-link rigid rear axle suspension works when you're hitting huge potholes that you see, to be fair, even just north and south of Sydney on the sort of country roads, that broken bitumen, it's really good. Its steering as well at high speeds at sort of low inputs is very calm. 3.1 turns lock to lock, and it is a pretty cumbersome thing in city streets with a turning circle, 14 meters, so 2 meters more than your average car. But when you're out on the freeway, there's no dead zone in the middle and the ratio is just right. It means it would be super easy to control a trailer. It's easy to control this thing over cambers, loose surfaces, and in windy conditions as well. Plus, even though it's extremely wide, because you have that confidence in the suspension at high speeds, you can sort of dip 1 or 2 wheels off the road if you need to make way for oncoming traffic. So yeah, nice little bit of confidence there. Now, the Tundra's not perfect. I will say that around town, the body on frame TNGAF ride quality does leave a bit to be desired compared to something like a Land Cruiser, which just has that bit better compliance in the rear end and over bumpy potholes. It's just that bit more comfortable, bit more refined. Even though this car has a seriously long wheelbase, it's definitely built with high speed comfort in mind as opposed to low speed plushness. That's okay, that comes with the territory. Also, when you start going through twistier roads, the steering accuracy falls away a little bit. There's no real feel or crispness to the front end of this car. Again, what do you expect? And then we come to the final real issue with the Tundra, and that is its 4x4 system. It's not a permanent automatic 4-wheel drive system. It's got a 2-wheel drive mode, and then you can lock it in 4-high with a locked center differential, which means you can't use it on tarmac, and it needs to be fairly slippery surface before you can use it for long periods of time. And driving it in wet weather that has been around Sydney recently, the Bridgestone Jeweler HTs don't have a huge amount of grip in that sort of just wet, slimy surface, which means you do get a fair bit of wheel spin and rely on the traction control to keep it all under control. So I would have liked to see a full-time 4-wheel drive system that you could drive 4-high, on-road, off-road, no matter what, because it suits the towing aspect of this car a little bit better. Anyway, back to the good stuff. Super confidence-inspiring on dirt roads, and all of the safety aids are really well calibrated. The ESC steps in very nicely, ABS, firm brake pedal. It's a very confidence-inspiring car, this Tundra, considering it weighs the best part of 2.8 tons and is, meaningfully 50 to 80 millimeters wider than most cars you drive. You still feel very confident in placing it and remarkably comfortable driving at, high speeds on Australian roads. When it comes to safety, the Tundra has not been evaluated by ANCAP, and it's not going to be. It did receive a top pick in the IIHS US safety testing, but there's no emphasis on car-to-car compatibility in that testing. There's also no emphasis on pedestrian impact safety, and the 1.2 meter tall bonnet, well, I think that would probably hurt people if you hit them. No matter though, there's plenty of safety aids in this car that are all pretty well tuned. You've got AEB with pedestrian, cyclist, and motorcycle assistance. You've got rear cross traffic alert, blind spot monitoring. You've also got lane keep assist and a few other safety aids. You can read the full details at the carsguide.com.au website. We've got the full review of this car. It's worth noting though that I found the adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist to be a little bit lackluster, not as good as the most recent stuff from Toyota, as you'd see in the Prado and the LC300. After-sales support is one of the key reasons you're probably looking at this Tundra over the other three rivals in class. It's got a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, and servicing is capped for 5 years, maintenance being due every 6 months or 10,000 Ks, with pricing capped at $450 per visit. It's easy to pick holes in the Tundra recipe. It uses a lot more fuel than a Hilux, it's also heaps bigger, and it doesn't have the payload capacity of your average Australian dual cab. That said, the 4.5-ton towing and that effortless V6 powertrain, I can see why you'd want a big ute like this. That said, I don't see them taking over Australian roads anytime soon. They're just a bit too big and a bit too expensive. For those who want one though, I do see the appeal of buying a Toyota product that's been extensively evaluated here in Australia. Let me know your thoughts down below, and make sure to head to carsguide.com.au for the full Toyota Tundra review.